Thousands of years ago, the ancient Mayans built a wonder of engineering known as the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. But this wasn't just a monument, it was a cosmic clock. On a specific day each year, when day and night are perfectly equal, the sun casts a shadow that looks like a massive serpent descending from the heavens to our world. But this isn't just a South American legend. Why is it that almost every major culture on Earth, separated by oceans and millennia, shares the same terrifying image? A giant, winged, reptilian beast. Today, we dive into the research of thousands of years of documents to ask, are dragons real? In China, the dragon isn't just a myth. It's a cultural foundation dating back to the Neolithic era. Ancient pottery shows these creatures long before modern history was written. There are even stories of ancient physicians finding wounded dragons in the woods and nursing them back to flight. In the I Ching, one of the oldest Chinese texts, dragons are described not as gods, but as biological animals that hibernated in the winter and emerged in the spring. Travel thousands of miles west, and the story remains the same. We see them in Norse mythology as Fafnir, and in Proto-Indo-European cultures as a central concept. Even the oldest religions, like Zoroastrianism, depict a dragon alongside the sun on their flags. Anthropologist David E. Jones suggests a cultural imprint theory. He argues that our ancestors' brains were hardwired to fear three things: snakes, birds of prey, and large cats. Combine them, and you get a winged, scaled predator. But does a fear response explain why the Aztecs and the Chinese, who never met, both drew the exact same creature? The Bible mentions a creature called Leviathan, a massive, roaring serpent, in the book of Job and the book of Numbers. Interestingly, the book of Numbers even mentions a fiery serpent. These accounts treat these creatures not as metaphors, but as biological realities that shared the earth with humans. They were pests to be avoided and predators to be feared. Some of the most detailed accounts come from Islamic history. Wahb ibn Munabbih, a scholar born shortly after the time of the Prophet Muhammad, reported a fascinating detail regarding the fall of Adam. According to these reports, the serpent that Iblis used to enter paradise was not the crawling reptile we know today. It was a massive creature that actually had legs, described by some as having the appearance of a beautiful, four-legged beast. It was only after the events in paradise that its legs were taken away as a punishment, condemning it to crawl on its belly. This aligns perfectly with Western dragon myths that often depict them as serpent-like, with legs. If this tradition is true, it suggests that the snake we see today is a diminished, evolutionary shadow of a much grander, more terrifying ancestor. But what about the fire? This is where science usually walks away. How can a biological creature breathe flames without incinerating its own throat? Look at the bombardier beetle. This tiny insect mixes two chemicals, hydroquinone and hydrogen peroxide, inside its body to create a boiling, explosive liquid that it sprays at enemies. Now, imagine a larger creature. If a dragon had a storage organ filled with methane gas, a byproduct of digestion, and a way to strike flint-like growths in its mouth, or perhaps a chemical catalyst like the beetle, it could produce a localized chemical fire. In a world of electric eels and glowing jellyfish, is a fire-breathing reptile really that far-fetched? Scientifically, a giant dragon seems impossible in our world's gravity. But nature has a way of cheating. We see gliding in the rainforests of Borneo, where squirrels can leap 650 feet. But for a dragon to truly fly, it needs powered flight. In 1784, we discovered the first evidence of a reptile that mastered powered flight, the pterosaur. But the real dragon was discovered later. Quetzalcoatlus. This creature had a wingspan of 36 feet, as large as a small fighter jet. When it stood on the ground, it was as tall as a giraffe. How did it fly? Its bones were hollow and paper-thin, making its massive frame incredibly light. Research shows that even if these creatures grew to 60 feet, their biological design would still allow them to fly. If the atmosphere of the past had more oxygen, these dragons would have moved through the air with ease. You might ask, if dragons were real and hunted elephants in Ethiopia, where are the fossils? The answer lies in their biology. Because their bones were hollow and thin to allow for flight, they decayed almost instantly after death. They don't petrify, they crumble. Out of 160 million years of pterosaur history, we have only found a handful of high-quality fossils. These only survived because they were trapped in perfect conditions, specific mud and pressure that prevented the bones from shattering. Are dragons real? Perhaps they aren't just monsters from our dreams. Perhaps they are the last lingering memories of a prehistoric reality, a species that lived alongside us, ruled the skies, and left its mark on every corner of the human soul.